Alrighty. So today, guys, we are going to kind of briefly touch on stars. Um, since we spent yesterday mainly going over ODPs and we looked at SID. I want to touch on star, right? Because SIDs and stars kind of go together. Um, and they're often pretty misunderstood because it's not something that we look at all the time. But it'd be very, very important for uh, like an airline interview, right? I mean, probably in your interview for an airline, for any airline, they'll probably ask you, like, okay, here's a SID or here's a star. Can you kind of brief this to me that you would in the plane, how you would actually fly this arrival or departure procedure. Um, so it's a good thing. I mean, obviously we have to learn about it now because it's instrument knowledge. Um, but it's something that you don't want to just be like, I don't need to worry about that because I'm never going to fly it, right? Because eventually, well, once you're flying out for an airline or flying in a jet, that I can actually fly one of those things. And the nice thing about both SIDS and stars, right, especially the Jeppesen plates, is it's really not that difficult when it's you just know like okay, just brief the plate like I would any other Jeppesen plate from top to bottom, left to right. I don't get all the information I really need. There's not that much symbology on there that's different from what a SID would tell you, or what a um, approach plate or whatever would tell you. So we'll look at that. Really quickly, and then we're gonna get into some weather stuff today because weather is gonna be a huge. How many people liked weather during private? Because weather is it's one of those things where it's what I would say about weather is that there's always a lot of information about weather. It's one of those things when you first start studying at the private level where you're like, oh my gosh, there's just so much like types of clouds and fronts and stages of thunderstorms and icing and like how do I look at this chart and interpret what it's telling me and also this and it's always like this big heap of knowledge. But the nice thing about weather is that weather doesn't change for any rating that you're going for, right? So you learn all this stuff at the private level and you kind of maybe understand it a little bit. And then you learn it all like the same stuff, basically, with maybe a little bit more emphasis on icing during the instrument phase, right? Because icing is something that we really have to be worried about once you can start flying through clouds. And then you go back to the commercial knowledge and it's like, okay, it's all the same weather. It's just like, do I know if there's a front coming in or if there's low and high pressure system? How's that going to affect my route of flight for cross countries and stuff? It's like, so if you, any deep diving that your guys are doing into weather now, like in really, like if you're like, hey, I'm going to deep dive into fronts today, like that's just going to be your area of study that you're like, I really want to understand cold front, warm fronts, occluded fronts, it's that information is going to be wasted because it's never going to change. Like, unless the weather scientists come out with this big literature saying occluded fronts aren't real, like, which of course would never happen. So, that's my spiel on that. So, stars today, and then we're going to get into some weather. Um, and then a little bit of review from yesterday. Let me ask you one more question. So let's say I was going to um yeah, so that's what I wanted. Let's say I was going to um pick up a route from here, KC to let's say Camarillo. Camarillo is up north, it's kind of along the coast. Still kind of in the Southern California area, right? Um, what is the name for the routes that we have that have been kind of defined in the chart supplement, that would make potentially receiving ATC clearance a little bit simpler. What are those routes called?
Tech routes?
Tech routes, right? What does tech stand for? Because it's in the book.
Maybe terminal and something.
Very good. Terminal and route control. Terminal route control routes. Right? So it says kind of exactly what it is, right? So terminal, so like within the terminal area, and route, kind of going from one place to another, control routes between different, I don't know if this is what it actually means, but in my brain it makes sense, different control towers, right? Different controlled, major controlled airports, class Delta airports, and not even just class Deltas, but class Charlies and stuff within the terminal area. And I showed you guys kind of in that booklet in the chart supplement how you could find, right? There's the ForeFlight way where we just pull up a route and you can choose the route that makes the most sense, a lot of stuff. And that's the easy way of filing that route, right? But I showed you guys where that came from, right? Which is in the chart supplement, FAA folder, chart supplement. All the way at the bottom says terminal route control routes. Go to the Southern California section, and you can look up basically from whatever area you're taking off from to whatever airport you're going to, you can find the route for it. One more question. Does anyone remember our aircraft code? Remember, because there were different letters associated with which aircraft could do those routes.
Q.
Q, right? Q is specifically for piston aircraft that are going
Under like 180 knots, right?
under 190, right? So the PQ, right, is the letters there. P is for aircraft that are going 190 or greater. And then Q is, I think, 189 or less, right? So we would fall under the Q category. N is for turboprop aircraft, and J is for jet aircraft, right? And then it would say, if you looked at the code for the San Papa 3 route, excuse me. So San Papa 3 tech route, and it said PQ60. What altitude would I file at?
6,000.
Good. Yeah. So this number here is the altitude, is the accepted altitude that you'd want to file at if you were going to file this, or you'd expect if you were just picking it up and you had it pre-filed. So I just had 2 zeros there. Cool. Okay, now let's get into stars. Any questions on that before we move on? So we'll look at another arrival into KSAM. Because these are the ones that you hear on the locale all the time. All right, let's see. Let's do. Yeah, I hear this one all the time. All right. So how many of you have been on SoCal and they said, SoCal Frontier Flight 7981 descending via the Lucky One, except maintaining 14,000. They're like, continue the descent via the Lucky One. Do not exceed 250 knots, 250 knots or greater to something, blah, blah, blah. And they talk about it, like, okay, cool. So this is the lucky one. And let's say we're doing the pike transition here. And except I want to actually see the chart. Cool. So this is typically what a star looks like, right? A lot of times they're a little bit wider, a little bit bigger. Let me actually pull this up here. Okay. So again, it's just like any Jepson plate, but there's a couple little things on here that we really want to make sure we know. All right. What's this red line here?
This MSA.
Is the MSA, correct? All right. So who wants to attempt to brief this plate with kind of the you know, how we've kind of briefed any other plate, right? Who wants to try and brief this star to me? I think it's Andrew's time actually. I feel like everyone else has kind of participated a little bit here, so.
Gotcha. We'll read them top, right, left, bottom, right? Left, right, up, bottom.
Left, right, top, bottom. Cool. So I'll zoom in for you just a little bit up here.
So we have our ATIS 134.8. Weather.
Before we even get there, not that you're doing anything wrong. I just want to ask you guys, make sure we know, because this is a trick question. Those dates that are to the left and to the right of 10-2 Charlie, what are those dates referring to?
The top left one is on those last revised, right?
Revision date, correct.
The effective date is just how good it's like date is current, right? Basically.
Yeah, well, I would say it was revised on the 25th of October. It went into effect on the 31st of October of 2024.
Oh.
Right, so this is a current procedure, right? RNAV star, what does that mean? Could I do this? Could I do this procedure if for whatever reason I had no form of GPS?
I don't think so.
No, we probably couldn't. What does RNAV stand for again? Does anyone know?
Navigation.
Area navigation. Yes. So okay, continue from what you're doing.
Altitude set, flight level 180 or transition level 180.
Why does it say altitude set in inches? What does that mean?
Inches of mercury.
It does mean inches of mercury. What else could it say if it wasn't inches? Let's say we're flying to Europe. Do they use inches of mercury in Europe?
They probably use like millimeters or something.
Use millibars.
Millibars.
So if this was an arrival coming into Charles de Gaulle in France or something, that note right there would tell you that the altimeter setting that you receive is going to be in millibars, not in inches. But this is reminding us that we're in the US. So we measure our altimeter setting in inches of mercury. Okay. Cool.
Transition level, flight level 180.
Okay.
So that means that like once you go below that level, right, you need like another plate, right? Or another, not another plate, but like that's when you're getting into like lower altitude, right?
The low end route.
Yeah.
Right. So we're transitioning from the high end route structure above 18,000 feet to the low end route structure. And 18,000 is the dividing line between those things.
Okay.
Right, so the way I would describe that to someone, if someone asked me about that question, I'd just say, flight transition level, flight level 180. They said, what does that mean? I'd say, okay, well, flight level 180 is when I'm transitioning high en route structure to the low en route structure. Okay, continue.
1 radar required, 2 RNAV 1, 3 DME/DME IRU. What's IRU?
I'm not sure what IRU is. I could look it up.
Or GPS required.
Okay, so my earlier question, could you fly this without GPS?
Yep.
You could if you had DME, IRU. But I don't know, I'm not sure what IRU stands for. But if you don't have those things, you do need GPS. Okay,
4 turbojet aircraft only. Nice. I wish that was number 1.
right?
5 Imperial transition ATC assigned.
Right, good. So, the transitions, right? The transitions are like when it says Imperial transition ATC assigned only. Like a transition when it comes to a star is any of these points where this star kind of starts, right? Those are the transition points. Those are the specific waypoints that are where you're transitioning from the high end route to the low end route structure. The beginning of any of these lines that all kind of lead into the airport area. Okay. So like this is Parker transition. This is the true transition. This is level transition, right?
So do these like so lucky or whatever something right back down at the bottom here will it like turn into a final approach, not final initial approach fix, or is it gonna kind of just get you like near one?
It will get you to the initial approach fix.
Well,
It should lead you to an initial approach fix. Because these arrivals are designed to get you to the approach that will then get you to the airport. So okay, keep briefing to me.
Lucky 1 RNAV arrival. Routing from Lucky 1 on track 239 to Lindy. Expect RNAV GPS runway 27 or LOC runway 27 approach.
Cool. So it kind of just answered your question a little bit there, right there. Because from Lucky on track 239 to Lindy, which if we come down here, Lucky, Lindy, it's kind of poorly. So Lindy's up here, pointing to this star right here. And then Lucky, I believe, is this guy right here. So from Lucky to Lindy, you are expecting one of 2 approaches, either the RNAV GPS runway 27 into San Diego or the localizer runway 27 approach. Both of those are different types of approaches that you can fly. Cool. Okay, after that, what does that box say?
Lost comms.
Lost comms. And this is something that's nice about arrival plates. Most of the time they have this lost comms box, right? And this is why it's so I've had way too many times with students where I say, hey, if you lost comms on this arrival, what would you do? And it's hard because they literally just don't look at the whole plate. They don't look at this box that says lost comms, lost comms, lost comms all the way around it. It's like, because they're just so used to they're trying to look somewhere like in the routing here, or they're looking at the MEAs and stuff, and it's like, dude, if you just look at the whole plate, it tells you exactly what to do if you lose comms, right? So what is this? What are our lost comms procedures here?
Join the San Diego RNAV GPS runway 27 approach at Lindy. If unable, proceed direct.
Vidya, Vida, I think it is Vida actually.
And join the San Diego localizer runway 27 approach.
Cool. And it just tells you if you lose comms, you are just join one of those approaches, right? Preferably the RNAV 27 approach. And if for whatever reason you can't do the RNAV 27, you're just going to do you should the localizer runway 27, right?
I have a question. So when it refers to lost comms here, does it mean like you just I don't know, like maybe out of range of their frequency of like can't talk to anyone, or maybe it means like literally like, I don't know, your radio's broke or something.
They mean literally that your radio's broke,
Okay.
right? You are unable to, because normally ATC would kind of be talking to you throughout this whole thing. And they might give you like some specific, because like if there's a lot of traffic coming in on this, like on this specific arrival, if there's a lot of traffic coming in, ATC has to kind of sequence you along this whole arrival and make sure that you guys have the proper spacing on the arrival as you're coming in. So they'll be talking to you and say like, crossover Momar at this altitude, do not exceed 200 knots or something along those lines. So, but in the event that for some reason you're flying this arrival and all of a sudden both of your radios go down, or maybe you have some sort of electrical failure, and in a jet, it's very, very unlikely in a jet that you have a full loss comms failure, right? But in the event that you really do, that's just what you do.
Okay, so then they would like see us like squawking 7600.
Yeah, they'd be
Fly the approach.
exactly. You'd squawk 7600 and you just comply with what's listed on the plate here, right? So we said earlier, I think we said the Parker transition. So we're saying, so let's say we're starting this from Parker, right? Let's look at these. So 18.1, 15,000, and then Parker, and the 231. What do each of those things mean?
Distance. 18.1.
Mm-hmm.
15,000 maybe altitude.
So if that's my question to you is, okay, so if it says 15,000 here at Parker, but then we go over here to Momar.
And then
So these, remember that line nomenclature that we talked about on the SID, right? It's kind of similar here, right? These look like altitudes, right? FL260, FL240, right? So I'll tell you guys right now that what this is basically saying is that at Momar, right, we have to be at or below flight level 260 and at or above flight level 240. So we're probably crossing over Momar at flight level 250, which is 25,000 feet. So, but if we look at these altitudes here, I mean, we have 15,000 Parker and then 15,000 here, 15,000. What might those altitudes be? Why are they listing those?
maybe like minimum altitudes.
So they're MEAs. So when we talked about the different IFR altitudes, right? These, even the arrival has MEAs along the route of flight, right? So the minimum en route altitude for this segment from Parker to Linden is 15,000 feet. So in the event that you did lose comms, okay, or let's say you didn't lose comms, let's say you had a loss of pressurization or something, and you have to descend quickly, and you have to descend to the minimum route altitude, right? You could get as low as 15,000 feet. You'd have signal from the VOR to give you navigation, and it would keep you clear of terrain and obstacles, right? So Parker obviously is the name. This PKE dot lucky one is if you were filing this specifically, that's kind of the code that you would use to file. But you don't really have to worry too much about that. And then 231 is just your course, right? So coming from Parker to Linden, you'll be flying a course of 231. Cool. So we're here, we get across Linden, and then we have 29.8 nautical miles from Linden to Weiberg or Weberg. And then from Weberg to Shoddy, it's like a melody. And then from Shoddy to Momar, right? And now we have an altitude restriction at Momar, like we just said, right? At or below flight level 260 or at or above flight level 240. So if you see these blue boxes with the lines, right, it's an altitude restriction, that's what that means. notice how if there's a course change, it tells you, right? So from Shoddy to Momar, I'm now flying a course of 224 as I'm descending to flight level 260 and 240, right? So from Momar, we're going to desert, and we're crossing over desert. What's our altitude restriction here in desert, Andrew?
Below flight level 23,000, and then above flight level 19,000.
Right. So at or below flight level 230, at or above flight level 190. And then we have this guy. We have, what does this look like?
A hold.
It's a hold, right? So why is there just randomly a hold in the middle of our arrival? Are we, is that saying that are we required to fly that hold?
I believe so.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a published hold that's a part of that arrival, right? So, let's say that we do have we have a lot of people coming in on, I don't know, let's say we have a lot of people coming in from the from down south here for the Hogs transition, right? So they have just a ton of people coming in over here and they're unable to sequence you effectively, right? They may tell you to hold over desert, right? Or let's say that there was an incident at KSEE, right? So they're not letting anyone land right now. We have a published hold here that we can hold until they tell us to continue, right? Interesting thing about this guy is it's actually a DME hold, meaning that instead of flying a minute 30 legs, or I'm sorry, a minute legs that you guys do when you practice holds in the sim, right? You do it the same way, except for flying for a minute, you fly outbound for 10 nautical miles before turning inbound, right? Which in a jet, you'll do 10 nautical miles in 2 seconds, right? So in a sling, it'll take 30 minutes, but in a jet, it would take 2 seconds. So, okay, so fly course of 195 down to Trixie, and we get our first red letters and directions here. So what would you assume this means at Trixie, Andrew?
At 270 knots, so you just have to be at 270 knots exactly, or pretty much.
Yeah. So I mean, I would agree with this. We're going to cross over Trixie at 270 knots. Probably 270 knots or less, right? Because remember this, you're coming into the arrival area. They're trying to slow you down, right? So at 270 knots or less, and then altitude wise, what are we doing?
14,000, or below 14,000, above 12,000, so we can say 13.
Around 13 or so. So a big part of airline flying, right, is actually planning your descent. And it's being able to plan your descent to cross over, like when you're flying an arrival like this, to actually get over these points at the altitude that's specified on the plate. It's not completely that the autopilot is just doing it for you, right? You have, because if you put junk in, you get junk out, right? So if you don't tell the autopilot to do the right thing, then it's not going to do the right thing, right? So, and then sometimes if you're just flying the procedure as what it's listed, right? I mean, you might think, okay, why would that be difficult? But when you're dealing with ATC, that might be giving you slightly different instructions, right? And they're trying to speed you up or slow you down as you're trying to make sure you hit your descent points along these specific things. It can sometimes get a little difficult. But planning your descent is a big concept in airline flying. Okay, cool. So we go from Trixie, and then where are we going from there, Andrew?
Hesker.
Okay. At what altitude?
8,700.
Is that at or above or at or below?
Above 8,000.
Right, at or above 8,700, and then
To Barrett.
Okay.
At or above 8,000.
Okay.
And then to Hannah,
Mhm.
at or above 6,100.
Mhm.
And then to Lucky, at 6,000, right?
Right, so lucky at 6,000, so this has the double line. So it's, you're not above 6,000, you're not below 6,000, you're at lucky at 6,000. Right, and then from lucky, we go to,
Vida, Vida.
this guy right here,
Oh, Lindy.
Lindy. So we have at 210 knots at Lindy at about 5,000. We're expecting this RNAV or localizer approach for runway 27, right? So that's exactly, if you and I are briefing this on a face check or something, if we're looking at a star together, right? It's not really a trick question. So I'm asking you, okay, what's next? And what's next? What's next? It's exactly the way you would brief it in a real airline, right? Say like, okay, cool. So we're looking at the lucky one arrival, Parker transition. So it looks like we'll cross over Parker to Linden, to Weiberg, to Shoddy, to Momar. At Momar, we'll cross over Momar at or below flight level 260, at or above flight level 240, to Desert at flight level 230, at or above flight level 190. Cross over Trixie at 270 knots, been between 14,000 12,000. Down to Husker, Barrett, Hannah, Lucky, and then eventually we'll hit Lindy at, right? So it's just reading what's on the plate, right? Even if it's not a plate that you brief every day, it's not hard to do. And now that you've seen, okay, when you see that at 270 knots, right? Again, it's not a trick question. It's just telling you like, okay, at Trixie, you need to be at 270 knots, right? It's pretty self-explanatory. Because sometimes I'm emphasizing this because I have students, I pull up an arrival in front of them and they're like, they get to these things and they're like, and they don't know what it means. It's like, no, it really is as simple as you think it is. It's just crossover Trixie at 270 knots, and then the at or below 14,000, at or above 12,000, right? So cool. So it's saying to expect the RNAV GPS runway 27 approach. So I bet that this arrival goes really well if I look at now the RNAV 27 approach. RNAV GPS Yankee runway 27. When you look at that. So our initial approach fix is Lindy at 5,000. The exact same thing that's listed on the plate, right? From Lindy, it goes to Vida. From Vida, we're on our final approach course that takes us right into runway 27. Right. So I know we haven't looked at approach plates yet, but even just looking at from just looking at the SIDS and the stars, right, you could probably figure out what you would do just from looking at the profile view here on the plate, right? Crossover Lindy at 5,000, down to 4,000 over Vida. At Vida, we'll fly a course of 275. And here, this is the profile view. So this is kind of like a sideways look at the approach that you're flying. O'Kane at 3,600, and then Chi at 2,700, then Rebo at 2,000, right? That takes you right into the runway. Okay, we can take it even a step further and look at, now we're looking at the airport diagram, right? So as soon as we're done with the approach, this is the airport that we're flying to, right? Okay, I'm looking here. Where's our gate? Right, it all fits together. It's also why I like this setting of white plates like this, because it just goes sequentially from one thing into another. Cool.
So are these stars, do they only work for if they're in a line route? Like, do they have any low end route stars or not?
They, some places will, like for instance, I flew again, when I was up in the Pacific Northwest, I think it was into, this is Bellingham, which is about as far north as you can get before you get into Canada. And this is a really cool approach in this airport because they actually switch you over to the Canadian controllers while you're doing this approach. So you're talking to Americans, and then all of a sudden you're getting switched over, and they're like, Sling 432 Romeo way, fly the approach into Bellingham. Hope you have a nice day. I don't know what you're talking about. Just kidding. It is kind of funny though, because the way they talked, it sounded exactly the same, except for just a little bit different. And it made me second guess everything they were saying. It was the most like normal comms, but there was just a little bit of an accent, and I was like, what did he say? And they're also required, in Canada, they're required to always end a transmission with Roger. So like they say like for instance, here it would be Gillespie Ground, request taxi runway 27 right with information alpha. The controller would say taxi 27 right via Alpha Delta cross runway 35. And we'd say Alpha Delta crossing runway 35, and the controller would be required to respond Roger to say, okay, I heard your transmission back to me and you got your read back correct. And so this guy over and over and over again, as he's talking to us, all I heard him say is Roger, Roger, Roger. But he's like saying it so fast. What the hell is this guy saying? But the reason I bring this up is not just to talk about me doing this approach, but if we look procedure here, we go arrival. There's the Matty 5 arrival. And this is what we actually flew when we were coming into, like we flew this arrival into Bellingham before getting switched over and doing, I think it was the ILS or something. So this gives me the opportunity. I think we landed runway 16. And so this is an RNAV arrival here, but it's flyable by us. We were not at. So basically, what happened was we were told if we look here and I look at Payne VOR, Payne says we're crossing over Payne at 16,000 feet and then Everett at 14,000 feet. We were not told to do that, right? We were not at those altitudes. Basically, they said join the Matty, what is it called? Join the Matty 5 arrival at Matty or something along those lines. And then from Matty, we were able to comply with these restrictions. So we crossed over GERD at like 6,000 feet, Mukaki at 4,000 feet. And then from there, we got set up for the ILS for runway 16.
When you filed, did you did you request that?
No,
Or so in the air they told you to expect that?
they told us to expect that in the
Yes.
air. So it was definitely a little bit, we kind of not got scared, but we were like, join the Matty 5 arrival. What the hell are they talking about? Because we were thinking like, we're not a jet, we don't fly arrivals. But this one is it's very just up there, it's common procedure. And it's why it's a good idea to kind of be, especially if you're flying in unfamiliar airspace, right? To be familiar with all of the plates, not all of them, but like, have an idea of what arrivals service this airport? Are there any that would actually service a smaller aircraft? Because most of them are jets, but some of them may be servicing the smaller aircraft. But even then, right? It's not that hard, right? We kind of got freaked out a little bit because we were like, oh my gosh, we're flying a star. But then you briefed it and we're like, oh, it's actually really easy. And again, you're talking to ATC the whole time, and ATC just tells you what to do. That's IFR flying for you. So it's just like, as long as I do what ATC says and I comply with what's listed on the approach plate, like I'm fine. Landing runway 16, south, landing south, expect radar vectors to find an approach course after Yano. So Yano's right here, right? And then I'm pretty sure we got radar vectored like somewhere. We got like vectored into Canada a little bit here, and then they turned us around and got us on vectors for their pilots for runway 16. So that's a very common procedure if you're. Does that answer your question, Derek? Yeah. So it's just because SIDS and stars are usually for larger aircraft, that does not exclude them from being used by you guys. You never know. There might be one day when you're flying in unfamiliar airspace, and you could get assigned one of these. But it's like if it's a Jeppesen plate, you know how to fly it, you know how to brief it, right? Just brief the plate and be confident and do what the plate tells you to do. Simple, right?
How close were you to that before they told you to expect it? Did they tell you like do you have time to brief it and stuff, or were they like?
We did, I think we were. I'm not a, good God, with that. Isn't that? Isn't IFR fun? That's so bad, dude. Um, the, um, I can't remember exactly where we were. We were maybe like 10 miles out from that, where the controller said expect the 95 arrival into Bellingham. And we're like, okay,
These routes will never like cross or intersect, right?
what do you mean?
Like, can you go back to that one spot? Oh, never mind.
They kind of do. Like one fix can be used for multiple things.
Okay, that's what I wanted. Okay, so it can't, it can be like an intersection, basically,
Mhm.
sort of, okay.
And then you have the military routes in here also. The IR 329, that's a military instrument route. Oh, remember we were asking about NDBs? That's an NDB right there. Right?
They're still used, or is it basically like,
I mean if it's there, it can still be used, but it's probably not being used very often.
Can we use, you can't use that because we don't have an ADF, right? Or like, can we?
Right.
Okay, cool.
I don't think unless the NDB is a GPS waypoint, there's not really a way we could use. I mean, and we couldn't use the NDB the way it was originally used because we don't have an ADF.
Mhm.
Correct. ADF stands for Automatic Direction Finder, and the only thing an ADF does is just point you to the NDB. So you tune into the NDB and it points you to the NDB, but it doesn't give you a radial. It doesn't give you like any information other than like, hey, you tune in here. This is where you go. This is the direction you turn and fly that. Oh, why is this colored in here?
Compulsory reporting point.
Compulsory reporting point, right? Because remember, excuse me, sorry. Because remember, right, if it's not filled in, it's not a compulsory reporting point. But if it's filled in and dark like this, that means it is, right? It means we have to report that to ATC. We have to report, there's certain things that we have to report, mainly being the time that we're crossing it, the next waypoint we're crossing, some other stuff as well. What does this little flag mean with an X in it?
Crossing altitude.
You have a minimum, there's a, yes, minimum crossing altitude associated with it. Right, so we have to cross over that. At
5,500 if we're going left, and if we're going right, 5,000.
I believe so is what that is saying.
It's too messy.
It is messy. What is this? This T route T261. When can I fly this Tango route? Only if I have what on board?
Or not?
Only if I have GPS or RNAV on board, right? What does that 5,300 G mean?
Sure, minimum your GPS MEA.
Right, GPS MEA. So it's probably a little bit, it's lower than this guy, 7,800, right? So if you have GPS, you can do 5,300. What is this? Star 4,800.
GPS working. Maybe.
It's your MoCA. What does MoCA stand for?
Minimum obstacle clearance altitude.
Yes, good job. We got there. Minimum obstacle clearance altitude, the MoCA. Right? So the MoCA, what does the MoCA guarantee you?
Staying clear of obstacles.
All the time?
As long as you're above it, right?
Above and within what? Remember, this is the weird one that has a random distance associated with it.
Is it the 5? Not 5.
It's more than 5.
22.
Multiply that by 4 plus 2.
Total that by 4 plus 25.
22. Sorry. It's okay, guys. We're pilots here. We're not mathematicians. So 22. So the MoCA guarantees obstacle clearance and reception from the nav aid within 22 nautical miles of VOR.
I thought that, I thought that it guaranteed I don't know if this is right, I'm just saying stuff. I thought it guaranteed the obstacle clearance, but only the reception was 22 nautical miles, but is it both? The
I believe it's
reception
both.
And, okay.
So why do mochas exist? What circumstance would I need to maybe descend to the mocha?
Service ceiling.
Surface ceiling, maybe. Or what two things is everything in IFR built on?
Lost comps,
Lost comms and
uh. Obstacle clearance.
obstacle clearance, right? So if I had lost comms, right, and I was going into, maybe I'm trying to get set up for an approach into one of these local airports, right? And I'm on this segment of Tango 261, right? I could descend to the Mocha at 4,800 feet, and maybe that gets me more aligned with the initial approach fix to then fly that approach into that airport, right? Cool. That was a good review right there. Let's take a let's come back at 808 and heartbreak. What's up?
Nothing.
Or you're just stretching. Okay. And let's try and get back like right at 808 because we have a lot of weather to get through. And whether you like it or not, we're gonna have to get through it. Don't worry, guys. I'll be here all week. Ugh. Not fair. What happens?
Dude, we're just the time go. I swear, all my days have just been like. So like.
Exactly, I dug up the glass. Looks like 5 minutes longer.
Oh yeah, the last one. The last week is really good. Dude, I don't think we're off track.
Yeah, no chance.
We're still getting in the whole art and stuff that.
That's like. I feel like this one obviously. It's like always in good projects. Yeah. Right.
Well, CTP runs deep and does send traffic like
What would be more helpful, talking about weather or doing holds? Because I feel like we need to talk about holds.
You could just assign us like a YouTube video for what?
It's true. I just feel like if you guys are getting ready for holds in our space check, we should probably talk about holds. Because we talked about departures, arrivals, all that stuff. Probably makes a little bit more sense to go into holds.
I vote yes.
Okay. You're also part of this class, your participation greatly appreciated. And
I feel like my weather knowledge is decent.
Okay, all right,
So the goals.
got a confident man here. So, Canoli with, weather knowledge, decent, good. Tell me, what are the, stages of the thunderstorm?
You have the cumulus, mature, and dissipation.
Okay, all right. What's the cumulus phase, characterized by?
It's characterized by the updrafts and unstable air.
It's pretty good. Right, all those updrafts build. Okay, how about the mature state?
Mature stage, that's when it's like a thunderstorm. That's when you have like
Is it not a thunderstorm before that?
no.
Don't dig yourself into a hole, boy.
That's when you have like lightning and stuff and like rain.
So I would say specifically,
Downpour.
right?
Downpour.
It's characterized by what kind of drafts? You talk about updrafts or downdrafts here in the mature stage?
Is it still downdrafts?
It's updrafts and downdrafts.
Oh, it's just everything.
Because it's mature phase, right? Because you have an updraft, and then it goes down, and then it goes up, and then it goes down, and it goes up, and it goes down, right? So that's a lot of moving air, right? And also it's characterized by the start of rain at the surface. Right, so rain specifically, because a lot of times rain can evaporate before it hits the surface. What's rain called if it evaporates before it hits the surface?
Yeah.
Precipitation,
Huh?
humidity, precipitation.
No. It's not a star sign. Sounds kind of similar to one.
Well, mist.
You guys heard that term? We had some the other day, actually, yesterday.
I saw it. Over the mountains, right?
Your girl's like, oh, you're a Pisces. I'm a Virgo. It's not a Virgo. It's a Virga. That's the name for rain that evaporates before it's the surface. So a mature thunderstorm will have updrafts and downdrafts, and it'll have precipitation that's actually hitting the surface, and it's not evaporating. And then kind of how the dissipating phase. What is that characterized by?
That's like downdrafts, and then that's when like the cloud like dissipates. And just
Did you check right today? Good luck.
Thank you.
You got this.
Thanks.
You did great.
Michael held my hand all throughout private and instrumental. The way that. And then he set me free, which was so rude.
Sorry, I want you to be a more well-rounded person.
Yeah.
Continuous downdrafts as well as the what do we call the part of the cloud when it starts doing like this thing? So it's coming out.
Virga is not the same as a microburst, right?
Virga may be a sign of a microburst.
Okay.
So
That's what it was.
it's not necessarily always, but
Oh,
it could be a signification of microburst.
okay.
If this is the cumulus cloud, right? And then there's this part that looks like it's kind of getting dragged behind. What's this called?
anvil.
Anvil, yeah.
Yeah, it's the anvil, right? Should you fly underneath the anvil in the thundercloud?
Probably not.
No, because that's probably where hail's gonna be, right? So you're probably gonna have hail in here. How far could hail get spit out from a thunderstorm?
40 miles.
Less than that, 20. So like this thing is literally like
Wait,
and the hail's just spitting out of it.
is it 20 miles, but the book recommends like being 40 miles out, or something like that?
I don't know if I've heard the 40 before.
I know.
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say you'd be like, oh, I'm 21 nautical miles away from it, I'm fine.
Yeah, I know for sure it's in one of the chapters. I know, because I remember reading.
If you can find that, I'd love to see it. I'm gonna pee real quick.
Remember all the fog? I think fog always gets me.
There's like 9 different kinds. It's fog is really strong. Advection, radiation, steam fog,
Ice fog,
ice fog, frontal fog,
upslope.
upslope fog.
Do you have any law that's recognition?
Long concentration.
Recognition.
Are you doing the instrument commercial back to back?
Yeah.
Do you want to go up northeast?
We're thinking about that.
North?
Obviously depending on weather, but especially on Sunday.
I would tap and bay the next airport.
Happening a bit.
Yeah. That's your railways is the next airport. It's more to the airport. Do you plan to stay at night probably?
I think we're gonna be devastated and come back second day.
Do you have any friends or family stay the night at?
I do. Yeah.
You should coordinate and do it that way.
Official.
Yeah, because then you can also take them up on the flight if you want to. Yeah. Plus it breaks it up. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to get a training flight, but also,
Yeah.
where are they?
I have some friends that live in San Jose.
Perfect. Yeah, land at San Jose International. Last Australia airspace.
San Jose.
Yeah. I did that with Kimberly.
Mhm.
It was nice. Yeah, we ended up staying in a hotel. Right. Cause I have to find out there we can, but
Which way did you guys come back down? Same way or?
you want to hear, let's hear both like I show you. Maybe Ricky's.
Yeah.
I know.
Sure, yeah, it was just.
Here, then we went to. And special flight rules. Will be very something far away.
So, chief would be a part of that.
We were doing, this was her commercial, so this VFR.
Pretty good than great, good than.
We did over 3 days.
Alrighty, guys. Welcome back to IFR class, August 2025. Like I said, we're gonna get into weather. Psych. We're gonna deviate. We're going to got a new clearance for you advice we're ready to copy. I'm gonna get us some colts. Some holds. We're gonna talk about holds because I feel like that'll make more sense for your face check. Derek, how confident are you with holds?
I can do them.
You can do them?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna teach you guys, if I can remember it, my patent way of figuring out any hold, like fully drawing it out, figuring out all the entries, figuring out everything you need to know from just your holding instructions, right? Because in my opinion, even though it's more quote unquote work, if you guys can do this, like if you guys have a pen and paper in the plane or your iPad with stylus or whatever, if you guys can do this, you can fly any hold, right? You can figure out literally any hold from any instructions I'm giving you. I'll give you the resources to do it. So of course, as with all good things, we're gonna start our conversation by watching a King Schools video. Because this is the, I basically base everything off of this video. Not everything, but a lot of it I base off this video. To holding entries, Martha King. Remember, teardrops are tiny.
Now, there are three different ways of entering a holding pattern: direct, parallel, and teardrop, and we're going to talk about each of them in detail. These entries are referred to as FAA recommended, which might lead some folks to think that they're optional. Well, the Airman Certification Standards, the ACS, which are the standards for your knowledge and practical test, require that you know the recommended entries and use an entry that ensures you remain within the holding pattern airspace. The FAA has determined that these three types of entries will keep you within the holding pattern airspace. If a pilot chooses some other entry, they need to be able to prove they have stayed in the holding pattern airspace. So it's a good idea to treat these recommended entries as a very strong recommendation. Kind of like when your lawyer recommends, I suggest you stop talking. The FAA divides the airspace around a holding fix into three sectors. The type of entry you make is based on which of these sectors you fly through as you reach the holding fix. When you're trying to figure out which holding pattern entry to make, the easiest thing to do is first divide the holding pattern into the three sectors for the three different types of entries. So let's say that you've been given holding at the ABC VOR. The controller clears you to hold east of ABC on the 090 radio. Expect further clearance at 2300. You may find it very helpful to draw that holding pattern out. During your knowledge test, use your scratch paper because you cannot mark the testing supplement itself. Now, at this point, it's easier to start thinking in terms of the courses that would be flown to the holding fix. You've been told to hold on the ABC 090 radio, but your inbound course on that radio while holding will be the reciprocal of the radio 270 degrees. So now you'll divide the holding pattern into the three entry sectors by grabbing a pencil. Take your pencil, put it down on the radial that forms that inbound leg. Put the point of your pencil on the fix and pretend like it's hinged there and the pencil can swing. Now you're going to swing the tail of your pencil into the holding pattern airspace. The holding pattern is right of the line, so we're going to swing the tail of the pencil to the right. Now I can hear you asking, how far does the tail of the pencils go? You will move the tail 70 degrees into the holding pattern airspace and draw a line there. Our inbound leg course is 270 degrees, so moving the tail of the pencil 70 degrees into the holding pattern gives us a line with a course that is 70 degrees to the left of our inbound leg. Sometimes the gears in my head start to grind, but I just remind myself that it's really fairly easy. Think left is less. So for a heading 70 degrees to the left of 270, we subtract 70, which gives us 200 degrees. Next, take that pencil and slide it out through the other side of the fix. The reciprocal of 200 degrees is 020 degrees, so draw an extension of your line through the holding fix and label it with the course, the heading to the fix of 020 degrees. And what we have done is use this pencil to create a diagonal dividing line through that holding pattern. On the side of that diagonal line where the inbound leg and most of the holding pattern is, that's going to be the area for a direct entry. The other side of that diagonal line we split into two parts by extending this inbound leg on out through the other side of the fix. The reciprocal of 270 degrees is 090 degrees. And now we have a medium-sized area and a tiny area on the other side. The medium-sized area is the area for a parallel entry, and the tiny area is the area for a teardrop entry. Think Tiers are tiny to help you remember that the smallest area is the area for the teardrop entry. So from a heading of 0 to 0 degrees to the fixed, clockwise around to 090 degrees to the fixed is a tiny area for a teardrop entry for this holding pattern. From a heading of 090 degrees to the fixed, clockwise around to 200 degrees to the fixed is the area for a parallel entry. Let's talk about flying the direct entry first. The direct entry is just
I forgot how long this video is. So I'll pause it here and we'll get started on kind of drawing out holds and stuff, right? Because I think the first thing that you guys should feel confident doing is being given any kind of holding instruction and then feel confident drawing the hold, what it actually would look like from like a top-down perspective, and identifying the specific entry sections, right? So she identified 3 of them: direct, teardrop, and parallel, right? So actually flying those entries, we'll talk about in a little bit, right? But kind of the first hurdle is just being able to draw it out and feel confident drawing it out. Okay, so let's do that on here. And if you guys can, I'd really like you to be kind of drawing this out with me, or at least writing down the steps. Okay. So let's say that we are given the instruction to hold west of the Oceanside VOR on the 270 radial at 4,500 feet. So this is how I would copy hold instructions in the plane. Hold west of the Oceanside radial or Oceanside VOR on the 270 radial at 4,500. Okay, so typical holding instructions. Just from this, I can determine every single thing I need to know about how to fly this hold. I don't have to see the hold. I don't have to use my thumb in the plane to get like my entry. Also, I don't have to do any of that. I can figure it out all on paper. And what this does is it helps you guys understand the hold versus just finding the shortcut that allows you to fly it, right? So here's the first thing I'm going to do. First thing is going to be draw the hold. Okay. So to do this, right, I'm going to say, all right, this is going to be the Oceanside VOR. We'll say it's right here. That's not the right symbol for a VOR, but we'll say it's the VOR. Okay. It's telling us to hold west on the 270 radial. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a visualization of where that 270 radial is. If it's telling me to hold west of the VOR, right, am I going to be on this side of the VOR or this side of the VOR? This side, right? And I'm actually going to move this over because I need to give myself a little bit more space. So yeah, it's going to be on the left side of the VOR because that's west of the VOR. So that's already your clue right there. These guys, when they give you a radial, the radial and the direction will always agree, right? So west on the 270 radial, these will always be the same thing. So I'm holding west of the VOR. So I'm going to draw a visualization of that radial. So it'll look something like this. Okay. So that's the 270 radial right there. However, right, this course, okay, this radial, even though they give it as a radial, whatever line is directly coming off the VOR will always be your inbound leg, right? So a hold is split up into an inbound and outbound leg. So this line that's leading to the VOR or to the point will always be the inbound, okay? So the confusion I see here is that students will do this and say, okay, draw the 270 radial, and they'll do this. And I'll say, okay, cool, so that's my outbound, and then this is my inbound leg right here.
Oh, it'd be the opposite, right? Because you're going.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? This doesn't make any sense, right? Because if this is your inbound leg, where's your navigation coming from? How do I know that how do I know I'm flying this perfectly straight line here inbound to the VOR?
Yeah.
You don't. It doesn't make any sense, right? The only way I can know that I'm flying inbound to the VOR, right, is if, kind of backtrack here a little bit, is if the line that's coming directly off of the VOR is coming from the VOR itself, right? The navigation source is coming from the VOR itself. So I draw the 270 radial because that's the radial that's the highway, that's the radial that I'm physically on. But the course that I have selected that's taking me to the VOR is a reciprocal, right? So I know that this line will always be my inbound leg, and I'm going to draw it like that, right? So this is my indication that this is my inbound, okay? Now to draw the rest of the holding pattern, okay? What direction, do you guys know, what direction is turning direction is standard in a hold, right? Right turns. So it's the opposite of like a typical traffic pattern, right? Keeping this like on. So right turns are standard in a hold. When would you notify left turns instead?
When they tell you, or if it's published.
Exactly. If it's published as left turns or if they tell you left turns. And if it was told left turns, they'd put left turns at the very end here in your instruction. But if they don't say anything, it's assumed it's a right turn. So if I'm going this way to the VOR, right, and I need to make a right turn, am I going to go down or am I going to go up? Down, right? So I have to think about situationally, kind of put myself in like, okay, if I'm the airplane right here, I'm making a right turn, my turn's going to look like this, right? Okay, so that's my inbound leg, that's my first turn. My outbound leg is just parallel to the inbound, right? So it's going that direction. Okay, and then I make another right turn. And there's my holding pattern. Right? So you guys see how I kind of drew that out? Right? So first things first, you draw the hold, or you draw like, okay, if that's the VOR right there, I'm going to draw a visualization of the 270 radial. Okay, so it's this line right here. But I remember that that's my inbound course. It's not my outbound, it's my inbound. So I label that as my inbound. And then I come to the VOR and I make either a left or a right turn. And then from there, I can draw everything else out. Right? Now we need to label the courses though. So even though this is the 270 radial, what's my course here? Because I'm going inbound to the VOR.
090.
090. Right, so it's reciprocal. 090. Which means if I'm flying parallel outbound, what's this guy? The outbound.
270.
270. So here's another nice thing, right? Is if they give you these instructions, right? Hold west of the Oceanside VOR on the 270 radial. This 270 will always be the number of your outbound course, right? The radial that they give you will always be the number of your outbound course. Not the inbound, but the outbound, right? So 090, 270. So let's pause here because I want to just practice this real quick. I'm going to say the VOR is right here. And hold south of the Oceanside VOR on the 180 radial. Left turns at 4,500. Once they come up here and draw that out for me. Okay. So that's your VOR right there.
Mhm.
So the instructions say that we're holding south of Oceanside, so in general,
Well, that's an H.
holding south of Oceanside, so we're holding above or below the VOR.
So we're gonna do that here.
Right, so we're gonna be generally south of the VOR,
Mhm.
okay?
So draw my line, right?
Uh-huh. Drawing that visualization of the 180 radial. Very good.
180 radial, so you told me that these 180 is gonna be back always,
Yes.
so. Left turn. Right, at 4,500, so. That's my inbound, right?
Yes, very good.
Left is gonna be this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Perfect.
and then outbound is gonna be, 180, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then inbound, is gonna be, 360.
Perfect. Nice. Very good. That's it. Right? So that's kind of the first step. So just from those instructions, right, you're able to draw out the whole holding pattern of what it would look like. Right? And now we need to take this a step further and we need to talk about, okay, not only can I draw out what the holding pattern looks like, right? Now we need to figure out, okay, where are the entry areas? Okay, so let's jump in. So this is why I showed that video, because I really like Martha King's method of figuring out the different areas is the method I always use, and I think it's the one that makes the most sense to me. Right? So what were the three entries again?
Direct,
Direct,
teardrop,
teardrop,
and parallel.
parallel. Correct, right? So those are our three entries, which means we have to define the three entry areas. So the way that I do this, I really need another color. Get it all. The way that I do this is the first thing I do is I'm gonna take that inbound leg and I'm gonna do a dashed line to make sure that I don't get confuse myself. But I'm gonna take that inbound leg and I'm gonna extend it outbound like this. So it's a dashed line, this is an imaginary line. It's not actually part of the holding pattern, but it's an imaginary line to help me figure out where these entry areas are. Okay? And then the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do what she did with the pencil. Remember what she did with the pencil? She was like, yeah, you gotta hinge the pencil on the VOR and you're gonna rotate it, right? So it takes a little bit of practice, but it makes sense after a while. So if I put my pen here on the VOR, and I'm gonna hinge it from the VOR, meaning it would rotate like this, right? So do you guys remember how many degrees she said to rotate it into the holding pattern? 70, right? My thing, which that is what you want to do. My thing is that sometimes if the hold is like here, you can pretty easily see 7 degrees. But let's say the hold looked like this, right? And it was kind of at an angle or like diagonal. Sometimes it's not as easy to see 70 degrees. So what I like to do is I will go here. I'm going to rotate into the holding pattern 90 degrees because it's a lot easier for me to see a perpendicular line than just a random 70. So I'll rotate it into it 90 minus 20. Does that make sense? So that's 70 degrees, right? But it's a lot easier for me to see what 90 degrees is and then just subtract 20 from that. Then to be like, okay, that looks like about 70. Because sometimes some people will be like, okay, 70 degrees, and they'll go like right here. Or they'll go like right here, you know. So I personally, I prefer to go 90 degrees in minus 20. Okay?
We don't need to be super precise with this line, right?
Not super, but it helps to be. It helps to be as close as possible. Because it's gonna affect what these areas look like. And so once I got that angle, I drew another imaginary line all the way through, right? And now I have 3 very clear areas, okay? So over here, this whole area over here, whole thing is all one entry, right? What entry is that? Those direct, right? From anywhere over here on this side of the VOR, if I'm approaching it from anywhere on this side, it's going to be a direct entry. This is all direct over here. Direct is the easiest, right? Now we have these sections over here, right? We have the medium section and the small section. And you remember, teardrops are tiny, right? That's how you remember that. This section right here, Andrew, what's this one called?
That's a teardrop.
That's the teardrop entry, correct. Very good. Someone did their King schools. Right? That's your teardrop. And what's this last one right here? Parallel. Parallel. Very good. Yes. Very, very good. Parallel. So, direct, teardrop, parallel. So now, from just the holding instructions, right, I was able to not only draw the hold, but I was able to find, using this method right here, all of our entries, okay, or at least draw them out. Now, I like to take this even a step further, right? Because let's say that you're given, the ATC tells you, okay, you've been getting random radar vectors to Oceanside. And they say, right turn direct Oceanside. And you go direct Oceanside in the GPS. And your direct course to the VOR is 325. Okay. All I need to know to determine my entry into the hold is my direct course. Once I've been told to go direct, I can figure out now what my holding entry is, and I don't even have to be able to I don't have to see the hold, I don't have to do any of that stuff. I can just get my holding course or my direct course, and I know exactly what entry I'm gonna do. Right? And I can do that by labeling some of these courses. Okay. So let's try this. So the first thing that I like to do is I always put these arrows on here as a reminder to me of what direction I'd be going, right? Of whether or not it's a course going to the VOR or a course going away from the VOR. So I'm going to label these courses to the VOR, what they would be on these imaginary lines, right? Because these imaginary lines are the dividing lines between whether or not it's parallel entry or direct entry. Okay. So this course to the VOR using the actual hold inbound leg is 090, what would this one be? 270, right? It's just a reciprocal of 090. So this is 270 right here. Okay. And now that I know 270, I can figure out what this one is and this one is. Right? By either subtracting 70 or adding 110. So if this is 270 and I'm going counterclockwise, am I subtracting or adding degrees in the VOR? And then what would this angle be right here? Okay, why is it 200? What did you do?
So basically, if you're coming from the north, it would be 180, right?
To the VOR.
To the VOR.
Mm-hmm.
So then you know, okay, I gotta add some degrees.
Okay,
or something like that. And that's
So-
why I got that.
okay, that's good. I mean, it makes sense. But so here's my thing that I always remember, right? So if I'm, and this will be useful when you guys get into arcing, when you guys talk about arcs, right? If you're arcing this direction, so counterclockwise around the VOR, radials are going to be decreasing. It doesn't matter if you're going to the station or from the station or whatever. If you're going this direction around the VOR, you're going to be subtracting. And if you're going this direction, so clockwise around the VOR, the radials are going to be increasing, whether it's to or from, right? So it just depends on the direction you're rotating around the VOR. So if I'm going from 270 and I'm going this way to find this course, am I going to be adding or subtracting?
Left is less.
Left is less, right? So I'm going to be subtracting, and I know it's 70 degrees because this angle right here, when we first rotated into the holding pattern, into the holding fix, was 70. And for geometry rules, whatever, if you guys remember that in ninth grade, whenever you took it, if this angle is 70, that means this angle is also 70. So I'm going to subtract 70 degrees from 270 and get my course of 200, right? Which is exactly what Derek said. Okay. Now this course is 200 to the station. What would this course be? Now I don't even have to add. Because if I find one, I know the other. Because I can just do the what.
What's the question?
If this course is 200 to the VOR,
Mhm.
what's this course?
Wouldn't it just be the reciprocal?
It is just reciprocal. So what's the reciprocal?
2-0
Plus 2 minus 2.
0-2.
0. Yeah. 0, minus 2 plus 2. So yeah, 0, 2, 0. So this course here is 0, 2, 0. All right. So these, remember, these are the dividing lines, right? These are the direct headings that if I was given a direct heading, I would be, if it was to this direction of 0, 2, 0, it'd be parallel. If it was this direction to 0, 2, 0, it'd be a direct. So if let's say I'm approaching the VOR on a course of 0, 1, 9. Is it a parallel entry or a direct entry?
Parallel.
Right.
Because it's close to 0, 2, 0, and then you just fall in, right?
Is what 0, 1, 9, right, is less than 0, 2, 0, right? Meaning that if we're looking at this guy, right, and I move counterclockwise from this line even 1 degree, that puts me in the parallel section versus the direct section. So you're correct, you got it right, it is parallel, right? But I want to make sure that we understand why it's parallel and understanding like, okay, 1 degree off either to the left or to the right is the difference between technically a parallel entry or direct entry, right? Let's say if you were approaching it exactly on a heading of 0, 2, 0, what do?
Direct.
So a direct entry is probably always going to be preferred over a parallel or teardrop, right? Because the direct entry is the easiest. And then the order of operations here, if you're on a direct heading of 270, you can choose between a teardrop or parallel. A teardrop is actually the preferred entry to the parallel entry. So that's kind of the preferred order here, right? Parallel is the least preferred, but it's
So if you were doing 0 to 0, you would do a direct. That seems like a hard direct to do.
It would be, right? It's not ideal, but also, I mean, a parallel entry wouldn't be any easier, right? If you think about it, because a parallel, if I was approaching here, I'd have to make a hard left turn and then come outbound like that and then come in. Versus this, I'm already basically turning right, so I'd be able to make that direct entry. Both of them wouldn't be ideal, but I definitely prefer to do direct because there's less going on if I have to do a direct entry. What's your question?
Can you, I'm sorry, I'm done.
No,
But
no, you're fine, you're fine. We haven't even talked about how to fly these entries yet, so.
yeah, can you do that to like where like you'll, can you just like draw out exactly what we'd be doing basically? Like,
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
I'm getting, don't worry. Not gonna leave you guys hanging, unless class is over, in which case I will. Now we have 42. I just saw your text. That's great, that's really great.
That's horrible.
Did it just like, was it one of those, because I've had that happen where like I'm just standing there and all of a sudden it like comes
Oh, I
across.
did not see that. I know, it was just like on the floor.
Oh, dude, that was
That
terrifying.
scared me.
Oh my gosh.
I had to like hop out of the shower and just like, I don't know, like, grab books very simple.
So funny. Okay, cool. So let's come back to my original question. If I'm approaching on a heading of 325, what's my entry?
Direct.
It's not direct.
I don't know. Why would it be direct?
Parallel. Oh.
Give me a reason. So we have different sections here, right?
Isn't
200 to 270. 270 to 020. And then 020 all the way back around to 200.
What is parallel, because you're heading 320, that's in between 270 and 020.
Does that reasoning make sense, everyone? Right? Because if I'm here at 270 and now I'm coming clockwise around the VOR, right? That means the radials are increasing. That means my courses are increasing, meaning 325 falls somewhere in this area right here. And guys, it makes sense, right? If I'm right here, heading to the VOR, right, and I have a radial selected that's taking me to the VOR, if I drew that right here, right, doesn't that look like that could be the 325 radial? Right? It's not exactly, but it looks like it's probably around there, right? So, cool. So, let's pause. Wait a minute. Here's my cup. Here's my cup. Pour some liquor in it. Okay. Let's practice this. So, should have drawn so pretty big. I need another. All right. Olive. It's your time to shine. And I'm gonna give you a fun one. Hold southeast. What's between 090 and 180?
150.
1090, 135. 135. Hold southeast on the ocean side, VOR on the 135 radial at 4,500. Go to the board, sir. Let us figure this out together. Okay. So what's the first thing we do?
So we're holding southeast.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be like kind of in this area.
Right?
So the 135 radial.
Okay.
Can I actually guess like what 135 looks like?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So it's like basically right like that.
Perfect.
And then right pattern. So we would southeast, yeah, so it'd be like this. Yeah.
Are you sure? Does anyone see any potential issues with what this pattern looks like right now?
The opposite way.
What is the opposite way?
Is inbound is you go right from your inbound.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Right?
I was
So
like-
that's one of number one errors that I see students make when they draw holding patterns like this. Is that first turn can really screw you up. Because if you don't think and remember that that radial that you just drew is the inbound leg, right? And you draw a turn, then it gets a little bit, yes, exactly, right? So right turn, right, perfect. That looks better, right? All right, give me some inbound, outbound courses. What are my inbound and outbound courses here?
Okay, so your outbound is 1.5,
Good,
inbound is 3.5.
good. Okay. +2, yep, so it's +2 -2, so 315 for reciprocal. Cool. Okay, so now let's switch over to that orange marker. And let's draw our imaginary lines for our courses or for our holding areas. Yeah, good.
And then like this.
Nice. Okay. How did you get that line right there?
This one?
Yeah.
Did the 90 and then like 20 degrees.
Perfect. Very good. So why would you not do? Here's another thing that I see that is a misconception here is just make sure that when you do that 90, right? Sometimes I'll see students do this where they rotate out of the protected area and then they -20 and they end up getting a line that looks like that, which is the opposite of what it should be. Whenever you draw this imaginary line here, you always go into the protected area. The hold is the protected area, right? So we rotate into the protected area 90 degrees -20 and you get the line that you just drew, right? So go ahead and take it. And then I take this line and extend it all the way through. Perfect.
Use a teardrop.
And
rest of it.
okay, sweet. All right. Can we do the courses now? So with the numbers that we have of those 3 lines that you drew, which is probably the easiest one to find?
Direct.
Well,
Oh, you mean like the degrees of like this?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Probably the teardrop. So it could be do 315 and then -70.
Well, before we even add or subtract, right, just using our reciprocals, what could you find just using a reciprocal here?
This one,
So what's that one?
135.
135, cool. So that's your course to the station or away from the station?
That's our course away from the station. Wait, no. That's what we'd fly to the station.
To the station, right? So let's put those arrows on each of those lines to remind ourselves that it's a course to the station. Okay, so now with that 135, either to the left or to the right, we can add or subtract. So I always do whichever one's easier, right? So the smaller angle is always going to be 70 degrees, right? And the larger angle is going to be 110, so it adds up to 180 degrees, right? So is it easier to add and subtract in this scenario? If I was going to go right and find that dashed line on the right, I'd be adding or subtracting.
It'd be added
Why?
because you had to.
Yes, I like to use clockwise or counterclockwise, because sometimes you can get, depending on if you're going outbound from the VOR and turning left or inbound to the VOR and turning left, and get a little bit confusing. So are you moving clockwise around the VOR going to the right or counterclockwise?
Clockwise.
Clockwise, so clockwise is adding, right? And are we adding 110 or adding 70?
We're adding 1.
110, so what would that number be? 245, very good. And is that course to or from the station?
Two.
To the station, good. So now that we have 245, I don't have to do any more math,
Two reciprocal.
reciprocal, right?
So 0.65.
Perfect. Yeah, that's it, 0.65. So now last question, you're doing great. I'm approaching the VOR on a course of 162. What's my entry?
Yeah, if you're 162, be somewhere somewhere in here.
How do you know?
Because 162 is somewhere between like these two.
Perfect. So it's a parallel entry. Right? And I don't need my HSI, I don't need my whatever. If I can draw it out and label these courses like this, you can just give me a random course and I can tell you what the entry is. Because I know the dividing lines on each of these courses. Nice. Kind of on my hand here. That was good, that was a lot of work. Man, kind of spider in the shower this morning.
Yeah.
Had a kind of a tough one. Alright, so I think that's where we'll pause for today. Tomorrow we will get into how we actually fly the entries. But for now, that should be good. What I recommend is on your guys' iPads, there's an app called the Hold Trainer app. Okay, and I think it's like $3 or something, so it is paid. But on your iPad, if you download the Hold Trainer app, it's really great because it just spits out random holding instructions to you. Like it'll say like hold east on the 083 radial at 4,500 right turns, right? And it gives you, it's going to ask you, okay, what's your entry with just that, right? You can use it for that, but honestly, if it just spits out random holding instructions for you, what I think is more useful to you guys is get a random hold instruction and then draw it out just like we did here. And then after you draw it out, determine what your entry would be and see if you're correct using the app. And so again, have it spit out a random hold to you, draw it out, label all of the courses, and then see if you got it correct. Right? It's really, really, really good practice because this takes time. It takes time and effort the first couple times you do it. But after you've done it, like after you've practiced for maybe like a week, you can get really quick at doing it like this. And it's the hardest it's ever going to be because once you're in the actual plane, you have shortcuts to figure out what your entry is going to be and how you fly it, right? But before I teach you guys the shortcuts, I want to teach you guys the real understanding and the way to really think about these things. So that's basically it. Good job, guys. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone. Hey, please, please. Paparazzi, hey, work here. Come on. Nothing special here, guys, come on. Just the best dang holds lesson you ever had, but don't worry about it. Teardrops are tiny. And I'll message this video in the group chat as well. Because this is like, if you ever forget like how to draw like the courses and stuff and the entries and all that, this video, I've watched this video like 10 times. Every single time I have to review holds, I watch this video and it's just like that, like, oh yeah, I remember now. Kind of thing. So this was an oldie but a goodie. Nice.